Welcome back to another episode of Offbeat Adventures. We're standing here once again on the grade of the former Grand Trunk Pacific Railway and later Canadian National Railway's Graham subdivision. We are on the west side of what is known as Michener-Parry Road, which is just to the east of the community of Raith, Ontario. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be picking up where we left off from a previous hike, which we did last fall. It was one of the last hikes that we did, and we ended up just right here. Actually, we kind of came a little bit on this side of the road. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work our way from this point about 5 miles or so. You can see we have Luna in the trailer. We'll talk about that in a second. So we're going to work our way about 5 miles or so to the west to the site of Raith Station, and just a little ways past that to another road access that is known as Lab Lake Road. So Luna's in the trailer. Had a little hiccup this morning, got here, and one of the on the back side, one of the bolts that holds up the backside somehow or another went missing, so I had to do a little bit of MacGyvering with some wire to hold it together, hopefully. And then I'll see what I'm gonna have to do. Maybe I'll have to zip tie it tonight, and then during the week I will have to go and find a bolt. Railway grade here again is owned by a forest management company called Wagner, so you do have to get a permit from them, which I do have. Here we go. This is actually our first real hike of 2025. Kind of did a little thing a couple of weeks ago. It is the 10th of May today. It is a beautiful day. It's not particularly warm. What does my phone say? We do have cell phone coverage here. It's a whopping 7 degrees. It's kind of a cool breeze, kind of coming from the west, northwest here, or in that direction. So it's not super warm. It was kind of chilly when I first got here, just after 8 o'clock. It is now just after 10 o'clock local time, which is 11 o'clock home time. So we do flip over into central time here. So let's get into it here. Hopefully Luna's enjoying her ride here. I'm gonna be using the trailer a lot this year. So Luna just turned 7. Her birthday was last week. I think it was somewhere around the 4th of May. So my kids, there's a spike down there. My kids decided that May the 4th would be her birthday. If you have, well, I had young boys. They're men now. But when Luna was a baby, they decided that May 4th should be her birthday for reasons. If you have boys, you'll know what I'm talking about here. So again, May the 10th, beautiful day. Again, we're a little on the chilly side. Just checking that out. That's metal culvert, nothing overly exciting. Tomorrow, we're gonna be back out here. So what we've done is we haven't done this section. And where we end up today, we've done that section to the next road after that. So we're gonna end up at Lab Lake Road. We've done the section from Lab Lake Road to Dog River Road, which passes Linko Station. We did that last fall. There's a couple little spots I need to go back and redo in there. But after that, we're gonna be continuing on to the west, and so we're going to be doing that tomorrow. We're going to be around, moving past Dog River Road, past James Station towards Kelly, and it's going to be interesting because it's going to be a very long ride. I'll explain that all tomorrow when we get there. And it's supposed to be warm tomorrow. It is supposed to be, like, I don't know, depending on what forecast you look at, 25, 26 degrees Celsius. So she should be interesting, to say the least. Okay, so let's let's do our history lesson here as we pass through this very, very long straight stretch. We're basically heading, I don't know if you can see it on the camera because the camera is very wide angle, but there's a tower up there. And that's where we're heading. That's where Raith is. So this line was constructed by the Grand Trunk Pacific Railway Company between 1905 and 1908. The Grand Trunk Company was one of the oldest railway companies in Canada. It had been formed back in 1852. So this line was going to be one of the first parts of a transcontinental network that Grand Trunk was planning to build. Now the problem was that Grand Trunk wasn't particularly keen on building this network by themselves. They had seen the experience that Canadian Pacific had. It was very expensive, very difficult. So they were trying to get a partnership going with the Canadian government, and there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of discussions, and so it took some time for everything to sort of fall into place. And so eventually construction started in 1905. Actually kind of happened in two places. There was construction that started here, and then there was some construction that started just east of Winnipeg. So basically the arrangement between Grand Trunk and the Canadian government was that Grand Trunk was going to build everything from Winnipeg to the west to the Pacific Ocean at Prince Rupert under the name Grand Trunk Pacific. And then the Canadian government was going to build the eastern portion of the railway from Winnipeg to New Brunswick under the name National Transcontinental, and the Grand Trunk was going to operate the NTR. This line was a very interesting anomaly because it was going to be a Grand Trunk Pacific line. It was a branch line running from the then city of Fort William, which is today Thunder Bay, to the modern community of Sioux Lookout. And this line again was a Grand Trunk line, but it's weird because it connected to the NTR, and the whole purpose of this line was to basically give the network access to Lake Superior to basically allow for the shipment of agricultural products from the west. Lots of sorry, interrupt myself. Lots of spikes and things that I'm noticing as I'm just pedaling here. It just kind of seems weird to see so many of them in this kind of area. Maybe because it's early spring here. Again, this is our first hike, and the frost has pushed things up, and maybe eventually they'll go back down again. If I see one again, I'll stop and point it out. So there it is. There's one right there. You can see the rusty spike there. I'll throw that off to the side so nobody gets that in the tire of their vehicle. There's another one there. So again, construction on this this branch line began in 1905 and was completed in 1908. Now, eventually the whole network was constructed, but then a big problem popped up because the Grand Trunk, which was supposed to operate the eastern portion of the line, the NTR, basically backed out of the agreement. And the reason why they backed out was because they were in all kinds of financial trouble as a result of building their part of the network. And so what ended up happening was now the government had this eastern portion of this transcontinental railway that it was like, well, how is this going to function? How is this going to work? So they ended up forming their own company to operate the railway line. So here we're getting into one of the only two pieces of rock work on this section of line, or sorry, on this section here. I do apologize, it's very hard to see because the sun is out. Beggars can't be choosers here in terms of the lighting conditions. And so you can see here a little bit bigger up on the north side, so probably in the, I don't know, 20-foot range, maybe a little bit less. You can see there's some here on the south side. We have a very limited window here in the spring when, you know, between the snow going away and when the leaves came out. And we didn't have such a great spring. Literally, there was snow on the ground. You're going to see some snow coming up. There was some snow on the ground a couple weeks ago. So we had to wait until now to come out. So we've got, again, a very limited window to work with. Okay, so back to the story. So in 1915, the government created its own railway company known as the Canadian Government Railways, and to operate the NTR and some other lines. And so because this line connected to the NTR as opposed to the Grand Trunk Pacific, the government leased this line from Grand Trunk Pacific. And so the name, in 1915, the name of the line changed. It had originally been the Lake Superior branch, or the Lake Superior division of Grand Trunk Pacific. And so in July 1915, it became known as the Fort William and Raith subdivisions, and that's going to be very important coming up here, of Canadian Government Railways. And so it continued as part of the Canadian Government Railways network until late 1918, when the Canadian government merged, amalgamated, however you want to describe it, the Canadian Government Railways with Canadian Northern Railway to form Canadian National Railways. So that happened in late 1918, came into effect in January of 1919. So in January 1919, the name of this line changed again. It became the Fort William and Raith subdivisions of Canadian National Railways. And later that year in October, the name changed yet again. It became the Lake Superior division. So basically the two subdivisions that had been created in 1915 were merged back into one subdivision, as I'm doing this with my hands because I'm Italian. Nobody can see me doing that. So the line continued to operate as such until 1922, when the name changed yet again. It was changed to the Graham subdivision, which most people know it as. Now, around that time, CN began looking at its railway network in the area, and they realized that they had a lot of duplication of lines, particularly just to the east of here. Ooh, that wind is not so warm and strong. And so what they did was they moved to consolidate their lines, and they were going to eventually abandon a portion of this original portion of this line. So in 1924, the name of the line changed again. It was split into the Crest and the Graham subdivision, and a bridge was built across the Maddenwood River. And so basically the plan was that this line was going to share trackage with the Kashibawi subdivision to a place called Conmy Junction, and there the lines would split, and the Graham subdivision would continue along the original route north to Sioux Lookout. And so preparation for that, in 1925, the line was renamed again. It was split into three: the Crest, the Raith, and the Quorn subdivisions. And then in the spring of 1925, the Crest subdivision was shut down, and so this line just became the Raith and the Quorn subdivisions. And the line continued as that until 1931, when the line was renamed, remerged into one subdivision, the Graham subdivision, and it continued to operate until 1994, when CN decided to abandon the line, and the rails were ripped up shortly thereafter. Now, one of the things that I failed to mention at the start there is we've been doing a lot of climbing. I don't know if you noticed, you can see here there's a bit of an incline. So maybe what I should do is, before we pause here, show you a map, and I'll show you back where we started. And so there was a benchmark, and I believe it was 1530, and then we're heading up to very close to Raith here. We're going to be hitting a benchmark that's 1580. So we have a 50-foot climb from where we left off to where we need to go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to pause here momentarily, and then we're going to resume our journey towards Raith.